So Mannequin Pussy, which I know our friend Melonhead had to add in a few asterisks there. Um, yeah, Get to Heaven. This was your. No, sorry, we're not back to everything. Everything. Don't worry. I got Heaven. So Carl, this was your pick. So over to you.
Yeah, so this was a summer festival season inspired pick. I think, yeah, similar to last month, it was a case where all the albums I was kind of most anticipating all got snapped up already for the five, so needed to look kind of elsewhere for my pick. And, I'm kind of at that stage where I'm going through, festival lineups. Um, One that I'm attending in June, Primavera Porto, checking out some of the acts that I don't know on the lineup, and Mannequin Pussy were a name that I've seen a lot but never really listened to before now. And yeah, as I say, go through the summer festivals. They're on pretty much every lineup this year, not just Primavera, but pretty much every EU festival bill that I've seen. Also doing a standalone show in Knots at some point this year as well. So yeah, when I saw this album was coming out, listened to the singles and thought, let's go with this one for March. And yeah, I'm glad I did, because it's 30 minutes, no nonsense, punk rock greatness, 10 tracks. For me, all killer, no filler, and just an absolute blast from start to finish. I've got to shout out social media pal Robin as well, who pointed me in the direction of their earlier work to check out too, because after listening to this one, I was quite keen to hear how it stacked up against their other work. Conscious that they've been going now for 10 years, I think it was. So it's always good to get context of how they've evolved up until this point. So I actually went back and listened to those, and the first two records, very raw, very ferocious. Both of them barely 15 minutes long. I think one was 17 minutes, one was 19 minutes or something. So yeah, about as punk as you can get. There's a great title track on there called is it Cunt Eastwood? Which it was one of those ones where I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a punk album when I'm looking at it. But yeah, then their album prior to this one, Patience, which was I think it was their first on Epitaph, which is the record label they're on now. So yeah, self-released the first two, obviously moved on to the bigger label, and that's where you can start to hear, I'd say, a bit more musicality come through on that record. A bit more songcraft starting to come in, obviously a bit more polished too, with it being on a bit bigger label. So yeah, definitely Patience was that transition, I think, from a rough and raw, super angsty punk outfit to what they present now on I almost said Get to Heaven. I Got
Yeah,
Heaven. Which is
easy to do.
which is this punk rock behemoth that I think strikes a real great balance between the heavy and the soft kind of throughout the record. It reminded me a lot of Visions of Life era Wolf Alice. You got the moments of like raw power and aggression in one breath, and then these moments of quite stark beauty the next. And it feels like it shouldn't work together, but it does. It's like you get that rush of adrenaline, and then you get that moment to catch your breath. And I think how they piece it together in the track list just helps it to flow quite perfectly as well. We was mentioned last month about the Idols record, and the sequencing was maybe a bit lopsided on that one. I think by comparison, this is a good example of how putting those songs in the right spot maybe give them that additional heft that they might have missed otherwise. So yeah, just really well put together. And in terms of favourites, I'll shout out the opening track, which is the title track, which go into fun lyrics from this year. Arguably, we go from the everything lyric to what if Jesus himself ate my fucking snatch,
One of
which
the best of the year.
yeah, which is definitely up there. And yeah, as you can imagine, I burst out laughing the first time I heard that, and still laugh now whenever I hear it, because childish and immature. So the rest of the lyrics on that song, yeah, quite dark. So I wouldn't know if it's intentionally funny or not, but yeah, the madness of the image gets me all the same every time I hear it. So um, yeah, that's a great song. Loud Bark immediately after, terrific. Nothing Like in that first half as well, terrific. And then the ones in the back end I really like, Softly and Split Me Open, which again are those more kind of tender moments on the record. The one that again initially didn't click with me was Okay, 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 because that is pretty much, as I've mentioned it there, is pretty much the song. They just repeat that over a really heavy riff. But no, I think even that song like has its place on the record. A real kind of short, sharp, couple of minutes blast within the center of the record. So yeah, as I said, not dull moment to be had. The whole album seems to go by in a flash. Just one of those that rushes in, punches your head off, and then scurries off into the night again. And yeah, had me reaching for the replay button as well. So glad, again, one of those that just glad that we put it on the list here, and it's ended up being one of my favorites this month.
There we go. So pleased that you chose I Got Heaven. Kylie, did you get Heaven with this record?
Yeah, I mean, as I kind of have with these guys since their debut, I think them and another band that we're going to talk about are why I would say, and I've said this for the last decade at least, that I think Philly is the most interesting music city in the United States right now. Just a variety of genres. The scene itself isn't necessarily uh, all the same idea, and you've got all these diverse different bands coming out of there. And yeah, I've always loved Mannequin Pussy, and I think for me, Patience was the one in 2019 that where they really kind of clicked, moved out of the straight hardcore idea, and then EPs often get forgotten and passed over, but I think Perfect as well, that came out a few years later, was in my top 10 EPs for that year. So yeah, I was very happy that Karl chose I Got Heaven. And I think this is more development for this band that, they come out and slap you in the face with that first track, but there's some good pop moments on here as well. I in the end, I don't have many notes on this record, but I also really enjoyed it, and I've had it on repeat, and it's one of those that unlike everything, it's not a mission. It's not a slog. You put it on, and it's over before you know it, and I can't ask for much more than that. So yeah, just I think they walk this nice fine line where they're on Epitaph, as Karl mentioned, and that's pretty poppy for a punk label, but at the same time Epitaph continues to put out great stuff like this, so I think that's a good home for them. Changed up producers on this album too. They'd worked with Will Yip on the last few, which I think if you look at his discography, fits into that. And John Congleton on this one, not as not as familiar, but he's a Grammy winning producer, so the budgets are being put into these albums, and I think the songs deserve them. And just another stellar album from Mannequin Pussy. Love these guys.
Very good. So yeah, both of you there saying you got Heaven from this record. I mean, when you put it on for the first time, it really sort of rips your head off. As I think you acknowledged, Karl. I have not come across Mannequin Pussy before, and I think it's like a little bit of a while to get used to some of that abrasiveness, which I suppose I don't listen to as much as I used to. but yeah, you've got, it's both sides, and I think I probably ended up preferring some of the poppier moments on here. In particular, I Don't Know You, which just a really lovely track about the remoteness of the other person they're referring to in this song. And then you add a bit of grungy guitar to beef it up as well. But what it I think, I've got this band listed a few times in my notes here. The Distillers is who they really reminded me of. A band who, I mean, put out precious few albums back in the day, really. Only two, and still kind of living off those now, really, when you see them at festivals. But that's where, I think back to Drain the Blood. Was that the name of that particular album? But that was the main single off their last one, 2003. And there you've got that kind of nice poppy songs, but also this quite heavy hardcore element as well. And whilst I don't think that it's as good as that, and I was a big fan of the Distillers back in the day, yeah, there's certainly, a lot of very good tracks. I mean, I Got Heaven. I mean, you beat me to it. I thought, I'm sure we all had it in our notes, that particular line about JC, and yeah, again reminding me of our November episode with Creeper, and another kind of blasphemic, if that's a word, lyric.
He gets up to a lot of mischief on this pod, does JC?
He does.
Yeah.
He does.
He has risen and he's come back to this shit.
Not again. Not again. The title track is a great opener. Really, really good. Sometimes, actually, Best Coast, I had a few likenesses I found with a few of the songs. Probably the popular one. Sometimes was one which I had up there. And okay. I really enjoyed that one. I think the elements where it just was okay for me was maybe some of the more the shorter kind of, there's Of Her, which is a 90-second blast, Aching, which is reminding me a bit of Motorhead, I suppose. But as I said, that was just like Of Her, which preceded it, but with better riffs. Yeah, I think there's a few which were like that, which didn't do as much for me as sort of three quarters of the record, which I think is very, very good. But overall, as a first impression of this band, yeah, I Got Heaven. I enjoyed. A good addition, definitely, and yeah, I think between the three of us, it's a very strong review and praise for it.